They seemed like the perfect couple. Laughter at dinner, hands held under the table, looks that spoke volumes. But every story has a blind spot. And in theirs, there was a shadow growing silently. A friend, a stranger, a choice. Amidst hints and empty promises, she traded the certain for the uncertain. And now everything they had built is ready to crumble. What happens when freedom becomes a prison? When love is hurt, can it still be saved? Great. California, 1974. In the quiet neighborhood of Fairview, Sundays smelled of cornbread, scratched vinyl, and neighbors watered their gardens with coiled hoses. The golden light of the late afternoon filtered through the blinds of the Bennett house, reflecting on the polished wooden sideboard. It was the kind of scene that would belong in a storefront, too perfect to be real. Vivian Bennett smiled the same smile she had worn for years. Discreet, warm, practiced. She walked beside Joel, their steps in sync on the sidewalk that led from the Methodist church to the small beige house with green shutters. She carried a still warm apple pie, wrapped in a flowered cloth while he held the Sunday paper under his arm. That was Pastor Lewis's best sermon in months, Joel commented, making conversation. Vivian nodded without taking her eyes off the gate. In front of the house, Mrs. Maxwell was sweeping leaves off the sidewalk with exaggerated energy. "Blessed couple as always," she said with a crooked smile. "You two are like, I don't know, a beautiful Christmas movie." Vivian laughed heartily. Joel nodded automatically. Inside, the phrase reverberated. Blessed couple. Was it really? Inside the house, silence fell like a thick curtain. Joel turned on the old radio in the kitchen. Nina Simone filled the room, with a melancholy too beautiful for that wedding. Vivian took off her shoes, opened the window, and let the cold wind blow on her face. She looked around. The room was exactly the same as it had been 7 years ago. The paintings, the vase, the same ticking clock like a cruel reminder that everything there was moving, but not changing. Joel sat down on the couch, opened the newspaper, and adjusted his glasses. Vivian opened her purse slowly, as if hiding a secret under her fingernails. Her phone was there, a heavy, simple Motorola, but with a notification flashing. A single word, Mike. She flipped the screen-off button. She put the phone away again, too quickly. The house phone rang. Vivian walked to the kitchen. "Hello?" On the other end, a voice smelling of cigarettes and red lipstick. "Vivian, my faded star. Have you looked in the mirror today?" "Ivana, hi. Aren't you tired of pretending to be happy?" Vivian laughed humorlessly. "It's not pretending. I'm just tired." "Tired of what? Of living like a colorless painting? Listen to me, Viv. You deserve better. You forgot about that, but I didn't. I remember Vivian from 1968, the one who danced barefoot at the Monterey Festival." Vivian closed her eyes. The image came back to me strongly. Dirt floor, loud music, and Joel kissing her forehead. It was another time. She hung up without answering, and she stayed there, still, listening to the radio in the living room. Nina was still singing. Joel came into the kitchen. "Is everything okay?" Vivian said. "I just need to go out for a while, clear my head." He agreed, returning to the couch as if watching the end of something without knowing what ended. Vivian went upstairs. She put on a light dress, soft lipstick, and when she left the house, she took her cell phone in her pocket. The message was still there. "Mike, I thought about you today. What would it be like to see you again?" She didn't answer. Not yet. But that Sunday afternoon, while the city breathed tranquility, Vivian's heart took its first steps towards something that not even she could contain. And it all started with silence. The bookstore was built in the old town of Riverside, a corner house with dusty stained glass windows and the smell of old paper. Vivian hadn't been inside for years, but that afternoon, her feet guided her as if they knew the way before her mind had decided. Mike was already there. Shirt folded at the elbows, hair combed carelessly, He was leafing through a blue-covered book when he saw her enter. His smile was immediate and disarming. "I thought you wouldn't come." "I thought you wouldn't either," Vivian replied with a half-smile. They walked through the aisles like two shadows that recognized each other without saying anything. They talked about books, music, politics. Nothing deep, but with a dangerous lightness. Mike knew how to listen, and I knew how to smile at just the right moment. "You look tired," he commented. "Maybe I'm just forgetful about myself." He didn't answer. I just looked at her as if he understood without judging. When they said goodbye, he didn't try to touch her hand or ask for more. He just said, "You still carry light even if you can't see it." Vivian left with a book in her hands and a warmth in her chest that didn't come from Riverside. That night, Ivana spoke. "So, did you?" "Did you?" Vivian replied, lying in bed with the lights off. "And?" "He's different." I listened. "Different from who? Joel?" Ivana laughed sarcastically. "Honey, even a street lamp would listen more than Joel. He lives in his own world. You live in his emptiness." Vivian remained silent. "Listen to me, Viv. Do you think fidelity is the same as love? How many times has he looked into your eyes this month? Did you see that you cut your hair? Ivana, I'm not going to tell you to cheat. I'm telling you to remind you that you exist." The line went dead for a few seconds, then the sound of a click. Ivana hung up without waiting for an answer. Joel was in the kitchen. I tried to prepare something simple: macaroni and cheese. He cut the cheese into cubes, slowly, distractedly. Vivian came in. "Are you cooking?" "Trying," he said, smiling. "Do you need help?" "Only if you want to." She nodded, but stood still, watching. Joel kept cutting. "You're different," he said without looking up. "Different? How?" "Quieter, thoughtful." Vivian shrugged. "Maybe I'm just so tired." Silence. At the dinner table, they ate in silence. Joel watched her more than he ate. She looked at her watch. She tapped her fingers on the plate. It was there, but it wasn't. As if her body had stayed, but her heart had left through that bookstore door and hadn't come back yet. After dinner, Vivian went to her room. Joel stayed in the living room listening to the radio. Once again, Nina Simone, as if the device was also stuck on playback. Upstairs, Vivian lay down and turned on her cell phone. "Mike. I wish this afternoon had lasted longer." She smiled, a small, restrained smile, but genuine. Joel went upstairs slowly. He stopped at the bedroom door, saw the blue light of the cell phone illuminating her face. She laughed softly, her eyes fixed on the screen. And for a second, he saw something he didn't know. It wasn't anger or sadness. It was absence. He didn't say anything. I went in, took off my shoes and lay down facing the opposite side. But he didn't sleep. He wanted to hear the echo of the silence between them. And that smile, that damned smile that wasn't meant for him. The rain came late Wednesday morning, as if the sky was ashamed to fall. Vivian put on lipstick looking at herself in the living room mirror, even though she was already ready. It was the third touch-up. Joel, sitting at the table with a cup of coffee in his hands, watched in silence. "Are you going out again?" he said, his voice low, almost as if he were asking himself. Vivian adjusted the strap of her bag and answered with rehearsed ease, "You'll find Ivana. She wants to talk about her stuff." Joel nodded, but his eyes didn't leave her face. "You've been going out a lot lately?" She hesitated for half a second, then forced a smile. "It's just a phase." She left, leaving a trail of perfume in the air. Joel looked at the closed door and for the first time felt an emptiness spread in his chest like cold water. She's far away, he thought, even though she's here. Vivian didn't go to find Ivana. She went to Willow Lake, where Mike was waiting. with a thermos of coffee and a smile that seemed to have been tailored for her. He wore a worn leather jacket and had his hands in his pockets like a nervous boy before his first kiss. "I didn't think you'd come." "I thought so too." They sat on a wooden bench under the wet trees. "You seem different today," Mike said. "It's the weather. Or maybe it's because today you know you want to be here." Vivian bit her lip. The silence between them was comfortable, familiar. Their conversation flowed like a calm river, and when their hands almost touched, she let go of hers with guilt, but not with regret. "Mike, I'm not going to ask you for anything. I just want you to know that I see you, even if he doesn't anymore." Vivian looked away. The sky was heavy. She wanted to answer, but there were things you couldn't say. Because if you did, they would be real. Late that afternoon, Vivian met Ivana at a retro salon downtown. Loud blow dryers drowned out their conversation, but Ivana always spoke loudly enough. "So, what did you decide?" "I haven't decided anything," Vivian said, looking at her reflection in the mirror, as if she expected some answer from it. "You're deciding, even without realizing it. Every time you leave, every time you lie, every time you smile because of him. There's no halfway house, Vivian. Either you go or you come back." Vivian sighed. "What if I go and regret it?" Ivana crossed her legs, taking a cigarette from her purse, even without lighting it. "What if you stay and never forgive yourself?" They were silent. For the first time, Vivian looked at Ivana and saw something different. There was bitterness behind the advice. There was envy. Maybe loneliness. Joel was at home when Vivian's cell phone vibrated on the table. He didn't have the habit, never had, of going through her things. But something in that lonely vibration called to him. Screen lit up. One missed call, Mike. The name flashed like a signal fire. He picked up the phone. His heart was beating too loudly for the silence of the room. The phone vibrated again. Message. "Mike, I wish time would stop today. Being with you gives me peace." Joel read that standing up, like someone facing a sentence. He didn't agree. "I didn't cry. I just put the phone back, walked to the bedroom and stopped at the door looking at the bed." Vivian slept on her side as she always did, but now he saw her as if she were another person. When did she start to disappear? And why hadn't he seen her before? Joel sat in the armchair, his eyes fixed on the ceiling, that which was unsaid. Now it was swallowing him up inside. The house was strangely quiet that night. Joel entered through the back door with soft steps. The smell of rain still stuck to his clothes. Vivian had been sitting in the living room reading the same paragraph for 20 minutes. "We need to talk," he said. She talked about her eyes. I tried to sound calm, but I wasn't. Joel sat on the couch facing her. Hands clasped, gaze steady. "Who's Mike?" Vivian froze. "A friend. A friend who writes you messages saying that being with you brings peace?" The silence that formed there was dense, cutting. "Did you go through my phone?" "I saw the screen lit up. I didn't look for anything, it fell into my lap, like the truth always does one day." Vivian took a deep breath. Guilt tightened her ribs like a dress that was too tight. I didn't do anything." "Not physically, maybe. But you're not here anymore, Vivian. And I'm tired of pretending not to see." She wanted to be a defender. She wanted to cry, scream, blame the routine, blame him. But she said nothing, because everything would sound too fragile before that clean pain that Joel exuded. "If you've already chosen," he continues, "just let me know, but spare me the cowardice." He clamored, walked past her, and went up the stairs. Each step he took felt like a nail in the floor of the house that was now starting to crack from the inside. Vivian was behind Mike. I didn't think much. I just had it. He was welcomed into a small apartment, filled with modern paintings and scattered vinyl records. Marvin Gaye music echoed through the room. "You look beautiful," he said as always. She didn't answer. She sat on the couch, her shoulders hunched. "Does he know?" "He knows something. Not everything." Mike chuckled softly. "Well, I didn't find anything wrong, right?" Vivian looked. For the first time, I saw something in him that I hadn't noticed before. Vanity. A certain pleasure in being the forbidden one, the man who makes the married woman tremble. "Are you important?" she asked. "With?" "Come on, or just with the game," Mike declared, reaching for a glass of water. "I like you, Vivian. I like the way you make me feel. But I'm not here to renew your life." She swallowed hard. And suddenly, she felt alone. Even there, with him. Maybe she had never stopped being alone. Hours later, Vivian found Ivana in a closed cafe on the edge of town. "Does he confront you?" "Yes." "And did you cry?" Vivian frowned. "Why do you think I would cry?" "Because you're still stuck in this useless guilt." "Vivian, listen, you've spent your life taking care of everyone else's feelings. Now it's time to take care of yours." "I don't know if it's that simple." Ivana smiled, but her gaze was hard. "Yes, it is. You only need yourself. And me." Vivian under her eyes. Something about that sentence disconcerted her, as if suddenly Ivana's support sounded like a disguised prison. On the way home, the rain opened. Vivian drove slowly, her headlights reflecting off the puddles in the street. She pulled over to the side of the road and turned off the car. She turned on the radio. An old song filled the silence. She looked in the rearview mirror. Her makeup was still intact. But her eyes, for the first time, they no longer knew who she was. Between what stays and what goes, Joel woke up earlier than usual. The sun hadn't even overcome the morning mist yet. He walked past Vivian sleeping, and for the first time in weeks, he looked at her as if he were saying goodbye. There were no suitcases, just a backpack, a few books, 2 shirts, and the old toothbrush. On the bathroom mirror, he left a short note. "When you know where you are, let me know. Jay." He didn't knock on doors. He didn't make speeches. He just went. Vivian found the note in the middle of the morning. Her eyes ran over those few words as if each letter were a blow. The echo of Joel's footsteps still seemed alive in the house. His toothpaste was still there. His perfume, too. But he... No. She went up to the bedroom. She sat on the bed and cried. It wasn't a pretty cry. It was an uncontrolled sob, muffled by her hand over her mouth. For the first time, the house seemed too big and cold. She hugged his pillow. It still smelled like yesterday. Mike didn't reply to the first message, or the second. On the third, he replied, "I'm going through a confusing time. I'd better take a break." Vivian felt the ground drop. He wasn't there. He never was. She called. She called 4 times. No answer. She went to the lake, but he didn't show up. Mike disappeared like vapor, as do those who never really wanted to be together. That night, Vivian called Ivana. She asked them to meet up. Her friend showed up as usual, with thick lipstick, high heels, and an air of misplaced superiority. "You were right," Vivian said, "but not in the way I thought." Ivana lit a cigarette. "Now that he's gone, you can breathe." Vivian looked at her. "He left because I stopped fighting for us. He left because he was weak and a coward." Vivian frowned. "No, he left because he loved me, and I threw it away." Ivana snorted. "Oh, don't start with this romance drama. You wanted more, Viv. You deserve more. I only helped you remember that. You didn't help. You fed my dissatisfaction because you never had the courage to face yours." Silence. "I'm tired, Ivana. Of your voice, of your provocations, of your advice. Are you blaming me for your unhappiness?" "No, I'm saying that you love to see chaos in others because yours is so old that you no longer feel it. But I do. And I don't want that near me anymore," Vivian declared. She left the coffee, without looking back. The power went out at night. A brief announcement in the neighborhood. Vivian lit a candle. The house, in silence, seemed less cruel under that flickering flame. She sat on the couch. She closed her eyes. For the first time, the silence felt like peace. Not because everything was okay, but because now she knew. It was time to start over. The sound of the old workshop bell rang when Joel pushed open the door. The smell of grease and strong coffee enveloped him like an old blanket. Behind the counter, Bill, 70-something, white beard, hands marked by life, gazed his eyes and invited him without his front teeth. "I thought you had disappeared, young man." Joel smiled at the corner of his mouth. "I think I really did." They sat in the back, where the coffee was weak and the advice strong. "So," Bill said, "are you running away or looking for her?" Joel took a deep breath. "She left me before I left home." Bill nodded slowly, unhurriedly. "Do you love her?" "I do, but I don't know if I can forget." Bill shook his head. "Forgetting isn't the point. It's like trying to put out a fire with the wind. What you need to think about is, does this love still have roots? Because if it does, even if it's burned from the top, it will grow back." Joel was silent, thinking, feeling. Forgiving isn't saying it didn't hurt, Joel. It's saying the pain won't rule me anymore. Vivian spent the day at home, cleaning. She washed the kitchen floor on her knees as if she wanted to remove more of that dirt. She threw away dried flowers, specks from drawers, and took the pictures off the wall. At the back of the closet, I found a blue-covered book. Inside it, folded like a secret, was a letter. It was from Joel, written 5 years ago on their wedding anniversary. "If one day you forget what brought us here, reread this. It was your smile on the church pew. It was your courage. It was your silence that made me hear what I didn't know inside me." Tears fell without her realizing it. There, in that moment, she knew. There was still love. But now he wants to be born again. Vivian sat down at the kitchen table. She picked up paper and pen. She wrote slowly. "I don't have any answers, Joel, but I do want to. If one day you want to come home, I'll be here. This time, whole." She folded the paper. She put it inside the same book. She still didn't know if she would give it to him, but it was a start. At the boarding house where Joel was staying, he opened an old toolbox. Inside, a photo. Vivian with her face dirty with paint, laughing, brushing it. Behind her, him, dirty too, and in love. He smiled lightly, the first real smile in weeks. Something in him said, the story isn't over yet. Vivian looked out the office window. The therapist, a woman with a calm voice and direct gaze, was waiting. The clock ticked in an almost gentle rhythm. "I destroyed something that was good," Vivian said finally. "And now I'm trying to find out if I'm capable of rebuilding something." A therapist said nothing for a moment. Then only, "Sometimes what you rebuild isn't what was there before. It's something new, more honest." Vivian nodded. For the first time, I felt that I was, in fact, present. Back at home, I took the pair of rings out of the drawer. She ran her fingers over the cold gold. "Don't put them on your finger, just as a hold," as if she heard in them echoes of old vows. Then I picked up the book where I had kept the note. He placed it on the table in the living room, open, as if he didn't expect it, but allowed it. Joel arrived late in the afternoon. The cloudy sky seemed to hold its breath along with them. "I came to get some things," he said from the doorway. "Sure. Make yourself at home," Vivian replied with a brief smile. The silence between them was thick but not hostile. While he was putting away some books and a forgotten shirt, she was in the kitchen, stirring a pan without hunger. Joel walked through the living room. He stopped in front of the open book. He read a dedication. "If you ever want to come home, I'll be here. This time, in one piece." I stood there for several seconds. He closed the book slowly, as if holding something fragile. Vivian appeared in the doorway of the living room. I didn't write expecting an answer, she said. I just wanted you to comment. Joel looked at her. For the first time in weeks, his eyes turned to me and didn't look away. Thank you for telling me. He picked up the book and left. But before he closed the door, he looked back and smiled. It wasn't a smile of return. I'm not sure. But it was a smile of someone who, for the first time, is considering going back. Joel opened a wooden box in the back of the guest house closet. There were the engagement letters, the faded photos of their honeymoon in Maine, and a napkin with Vivian's lipstick on it. From the day she said yes, without hesitation. He held the photo of her laughing, with her feet in the water and her hair blowing in the wind. He remembered the day when in the middle of a storm she let him go and said, "Let's go for a run. You can't run from the rain, but you can dance in it." Joel sent it with teary eyes. What happened to that lightness? To that we? Vivian was painting on the living room wall. Alone, her hair tied up, her hands dirty with white paint. The old radio played an instrumental version of Stand By Me softly. She breathed differently, no longer anxious, just present. Then she took care of the garden. She pruned it like roses. She planted lavender. When she got home, she washed her hands, looked at her reflection in the living room mirror, and for the first time saw a woman who no longer wanted to run away from herself. The letter was written calmly. Joel, I don't know if this letter will reach you at the right time. Maybe there is no right time. But I want you to know that I am changing, not because of regret, but because I finally understood who I have become. I destroyed something I loved because I lost myself inside myself, and you were strong enough not to try to hold me back. That, in itself, is love. If you ever want to see me, I will be here. In truth. With peace. With desire. She sealed the envelope, wrote his name by hand, and posted it. I don't expect anything, but I'm jealous anyway. 2 days later, Vivian went to the city fair. She was walking among the fruit stands when she saw him. Joel, plaid shirt, bag in hand, polite smile. Their eyes met. Joel? Vivian? A brief silence, people passing between them. The world goes on. The letter, he said. I didn't want an answer. Just that you comment, Joel agrees. I found out. She nodded, almost relieved. He took a step back as if he had to go, but still wanted to stay. The lavenders are beautiful, he said, surprising her. I passed by your street. I saw the garden. Vivian smiled small, genuinely. It's a recommendation. Joel looked into her eyes for a second longer than he should have. Will we talk? If it's true, yes. He agrees. And he left. But this time, he looked back. The invitation was simple. Joel, I don't know where this leads us, but do you want to have coffee with me on the bench in the square where it all began? He answered with just one word. Yes. It was Saturday. The sky was clear as if it had been washed overnight. Vivian arrived first. She sat on the white-painted wooden bench, the same one where, years ago, Joel had proposed to her with a rose in his shirt pocket and a trembling voice. He arrived 10 minutes later, linen shirt, medium-length hair tousled by the wind. He walked with the pace of someone who is in no hurry, only respect. He sat down next to her. Silence. You look beautiful, he said finally. Vivian smiled. I looked myself. He nodded. That I can see. She looked at the trees as if she needed courage to continue. Joel, I made a mistake. With you. With us. Let's go. And for a while I tried to deal with lack. With routine, with need. But today I know I was the one who got lost. Joel listened with his entire body. I don't want to go back to what we were. I want to build something new. Even if it takes time. Even if it's never the same. He looked at the ground. He took a deep breath. I don't want to go back either. I want to move forward. With you, if I really do. Vivian revealed. I'm willing to walk. One step at a time. Joel took a small, aged envelope out of his pocket. He handed it to her. Vivian opened it. Inside was a dried flower, a lavender. I saved this from our first garden. I thought it was dead, but it still smells. Vivian brought the flower to her nose. She closed her eyes. She smiled with silent tears. We walked together after breakfast. The cobblestone street seemed different. The shadows of the trees covered them with specializations. For a moment our hands almost touched, but they didn't. And that was enough, because now it wasn't about rushing anymore. It was about truth. Our morning smelled of freshly brewed coffee again. Vivian left notes on the refrigerator door with little verses or sweet reminders. Joel read them, smiled, and responded with arrows and silly drawings. On Tuesdays, I'm doing therapy together. On Fridays, they cooked while listening to the same old vinyl records. There were still silences, but now there were spaces to breathe, not holes to escape to. Vivian laughed with her eyes again. Joel rested his forehead against hers again before going to sleep. That Sunday, we gathered some friends in the garden. The same one where the lavenders had been made had bloomed again. Without long dresses or flowery speeches, Joel and Vivian held hands surrounded only by those who had truly seen the fall and the friendship. Joel spoke first. I'm not here to repeat promises. I'm here because I choose you. Today. With everything we are. And with everything I learned to be. Vivian continued. I don't want to impress you. I want to be with you. To be for you what I wasn't when you needed me. And now I am. They hugged. The kiss was simple, but complete. Later, alone, they hung a new picture on the living room wall. It wasn't an old photo. It was a light wooden frame with a dried flower in the center. Lavender, the same one from the letter, the same one that resisted. Vivian looked at the painting and then at Joel. We're not perfect, but we're real, he added. She rested her head on his shoulder. The radio was playing Nina Simone again, but this time, the song wasn't sad. It was so sincere. The house, once cracked, now stood in silence, standing, firm. It was full of love. Do you like love stories? Those stories full of romance, emotion, and of course happy endings and or maybe just endings? Have you ever experienced a moment so strange or unusual that it seemed straight out of a movie? Then you're in the right place. Here, we love to share stories that touch the heart, inspire, and make you think. But we want to hear from you. Share in the comments your love story, that special moment, or even something that made you believe in the power of true feelings. Maybe your experience will inspire us to tell a new story in the future. Imagine seeing your story transformed into a tale that can move other people around the world. And if you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like. This not only motivates me, but also shows me that sharing these experiences makes a difference. After all, together we can create a space full of love, empathy, and good stories. So come on, like, comment, and of course share. Maybe the next chapter will be inspired by you.